I've tried to film this video just 5 separate times now because it's just so bizarre. This was the weirdest Nintendo Direct of all freaking time, but I'm trying to stay rational because this is insanity. Please do me a favor and like this video and subscribe because it's time to talk about what is easily the most baffling freaking Nintendo Direct ever. This was filled with announcements for the Mario movie, which you're not even going to believe, talks about games that some people thought might be canceled, and it sounds like the leaks that said that there was going to be a Nintendo Switch Online upgrade turned out to be real, and we're getting some Nintendo 64 games very, very soon. But let's start things off with just the basics. What's up, gamers? Dreamcastguy here, and there's been a ton of hype around this specific Nintendo Direct. Typically, as we go into the holiday season, Nintendo likes to do just one last giant showcase, exploring all the different projects they have coming very, very soon. So this was 40 minutes of games, all coming up for apparently the next couple months. Now, some of these projects are off in the distance, but there is a lot of stuff that's coming soon. Now, there is some good and some bad with this Direct. I thought that they spent a lot of time actually just talking about DLC for things like Monster Hunter Rise is getting a gigantic expansion called Sunbreak. Mario Party Superstars was shown again. Disco Elysium is coming to Nintendo Switch. But some of these ports and stuff that they announced were actually pretty legit, like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the original freaking RPG that, in my opinion, is the greatest Star Wars game of all time, is being ported to Nintendo Switch. Now, this is different from the PlayStation 5 remake that's coming at some point, but still, even getting that original, like, turn-based masterpiece is absolutely awesome. Now, some of the stuff they showed was really weird. Stuff like Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity is getting more DLC, so they did a trailer just showing off stuff for the Season Pass. Now, I'll be honest, a lot of times I just don't care much for, like, a lot of these DLC announcements. A lot of times, even if I did enjoy the game, it feels like a slowdown of like the hype train to just stop and talk about old games instead of like new stuff that's about to come out. But there is a DLC announcement that I feel like everybody's been very, very curious about, which is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Like, love it or hate it, it's actually the biggest fighting game of all time. I think it's past like 20 million copies sold, something completely bonkers. Maybe there's even 30 million copies sold. Well, they've announced officially that there's only going to be one last character. Yep, you heard me correctly. Despite the fact that this is the biggest roster you could possibly imagine, spanning from characters from every universe, every genre, the fact that you can have Metroid, or sorry, Samus Aran fighting against Solid Snake, fighting against Cloud, fighting against freaking Joker from Persona, like, it's nuts just how much they've managed to cram into one game and keep it pretty balanced. I mean, it's been a pretty impressive feat, but for the last, year, they've been saying that this is all going to end, that they want to possibly work on the next project, or maybe just, wrap this up so the developers can just, go and see their families. Well, they've officially said that they're going to be revealing the final Smash character on October 5th. It's going to be some sort of, conference where they're going to show off the new character, how they fight, and just reveal what is definitely going to be the last person. Now, they're pretty clear about the fact that this is the end of Smash Ultimate, which, I mean, I'm totally fine with. Now, part of this comes down to the fact that I haven't even been playing Ultimate that much. The last character I even bought was Sephiroth, but still, it's interesting how much the Super Smash Bros. Series has exploded in popularity and found this, very unique home on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I want to talk about the thing that's definitely the most curious to me, which was this, the Nintendo Switch Online service. Now, there's been a bunch of rumors going around that there was going to be some sort of upgrade pack. Now, right now, if you have Nintendo Switch Online, you could play NES and SNES, and just randomly, Nintendo adds more games to it. You just wake up and there's an extra Zelda or a different version of, Mario or something on there. Well, they've announced that there is now going to be a separate thing where, this is going to be $2 a month. Now there's going to be an upgraded version of it, which is probably going to have a slightly higher cost. Now, they're calling it the expansion pack, and it's going to give you access to Nintendo 64 games and Sega Genesis games along with the freaking NES and SNES. Now, here's what's crazy. The opening selection is actually pretty impressive. These are the games that we're starting with here in October. Freaking Mario 64, Star Fox, Yoshi's Story, Dr. Mario, Operation Winback. Totally a hidden gem. That's really cool that it's coming back, but it also has this big selection of Genesis games that we're going to get. Frickin' Golden Axe, Echo the Dolphin, frickin' Castlevania Bloodlines. This is a very, very good collection that's just going to be packaged part of this. Now here's something I think is extra cool is that we're going to be getting these special controllers that you can purchase. They're going to be $50, but these are actually... Now here's something I thought... I'm going to shut these blinds. Here's something I find to be extra cool, which is the fact that we're going to be able to get real controllers for the Nintendo 64 and the Sega Genesis that are wireless and modern. Now, they are going to be $50, but still, it's cool that they're actually giving us the truest way to play these games. 1 second, I got to close these blinds. Now, to me, this is just definitely a very hype announcement. This has been rumored for about a month and a half, but I'm glad it really came real because I love retro gaming a lot. I think a lot of these old school games are cool, so having a modern way to play them with things like save states, the ability to hopefully play stuff online, that is exceptionally awesome. I mean, I did like the rumors. There was a bunch of talk that we're going to get Game Boy and Game Boy Advanced at some points on the Nintendo Switch as well. And to be perfectly honest, I'm more excited for that. I want to see Game Boy games more than even Nintendo 64 games. I'm a big freaking Game Boy fanatic. That's why I always have a Game Boy on hand. But let's talk about new stuff. We've talked retro. Let's talk a bit about some new projects that are coming out. Starting with this weird, mysterious Kirby game that just randomly popped up. It's called Forgotten Island. It seems like this game is going to be at least semi-open world and set on this like overgrown tropical resort that's been abandoned and now filled with cute, adorable monsters. But what's cool about this is that during the course of the trailer, we did see Kirby just kind of exploring, wandering around, seeing all these different locations and kind of just doing his typical Kirby stuff, sucking people up, stealing powers, using these abilities to fight these different creatures. It seems pretty cool to see like a modernized take on Kirby. Now, normally, I haven't played the last couple Kirby games because they just didn't really strike my attention, but seeing this like very colorful dystopia, this like dark, twisted, forgotten island, it's definitely got my attention. Now, speaking of extremely colorful games that I'm very, very hyped about, I am a Splatoon fanatic. In fact, my most played Nintendo Switch game is Splatoon 2. I love it. I love the DLC. I am so freaking ready for Splatoon 3. Well, they showed off quite an interesting assortment of Splatoon 3 gameplay. Now, this was a surprising splash of different elements. It looks like there was a lot of single player being shown, new puzzles and stuff. It was like this very intricate combat system that looks, well, deeper than some of the aspects of the original Splatoon and Splatoon 2 that we had to deal with. Now, this takes place in a new area that's called Splatsville, and apparently Splatsville is called the City of Chaos, which already, just by looking at it, I'm completely on board. Like, Splatoon 3 might end up being my most played Nintendo Switch game, and I'm already ready for it. Give us a demo or like a freaking Splatfest. Give us a taste of that deliciousness when that comes out next year. Next up, they showed off a bunch of Metroid Dread. Now, at this point, everybody knows about Metroid Dread. It's a 2D adventure. It looks like it's going to be fantastic, and more importantly, it looks like it's going to be kind of spooky. My favorite Metroid game of all time is Metroid Fusion on the Game Boy Advance, because there's something so cool about a powerless Samus Aran being hunted by the evil X creature. Well, it sounds like X, the like parasitic organism, might be back. It takes place on this new planet called ZDR, and it looks like it's definitely going for like a more spooky element. The whole idea of having like different evil robots hunt you down and trying to explore this foreign land. I am extremely excited for Metroid Dread, and it's weird to think, I guess we're going to be playing that in just a couple days. I'm going to be making a review of that for sure, because I am definitely ready. The sunlight is going basically directly into my eyes, so please do me a favor and like this video so that I can just stop suffering for a second. Okay, I'm going to sit like this because it's time to talk about the strangest aspect of this entire Nintendo Direct. I mean, I feel like I'm in shock even 30 minutes after seeing this. Chris Prat is playing Mario. In the middle of the press conference, they decided to basically just say, hey, we want to give you some concrete details about this animated Mario movie we're working on. All the characters are going to talk a lot, so we wanted to get good actors to play them. This is real. These are actual slides from Nintendo. Chris Pratt is playing Mario. Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is playing Luigi. this is real. Oh my god. Jack Black is playing Bowser. And Seth Rogen is playing Donkey Kong. What timeline did I accidentally fall into where Seth Rogen is playing Donkey Kong? This is just, it's absolute insanity. I mean, words escape me. This is the strangest thing I've ever heard of in my life. I'm definitely going to watch this movie. I mean, at this point, I have to. Everybody has to. Chris Prat, as soon as I was actually watching this, one of my freaking friends texted me and said, "Why is Star-Lord playing Mario?" This is insanity. But let's talk about just one last game, which is Bayonetta 3. I'm still just... This is so freaking goofy to me. But Bayonetta 3 is one of those games that I think a lot of us kind of assumed was in trouble. It actually hasn't been seen in 3 years, maybe even 4 years since we've last seen Bayonetta 3. Well, they decided to make up with that. Starting off, it was a CG trailer that just gave us like a tease of the world, showed us a bit of Bayonetta herself coming out and kicking butt. But then it turned into a full-blown gameplay montage showing what looked like different slices of the game, different levels, different abilities, and it ended with some shots of a full-blown Godzilla-style boss fight. It looks so great. If I ever said anything bad about Bayonetta 3 ever, if I ever speculated that that game was not going to be perfectly on track, that game is coming next year, and holy heck is that a day one buy. Now, there was a ton of stuff during this direct that I've just decided to skip over because, quite frankly, it's just basically, just ports. It's stuff like, hey, guess what? There's going to be more Animal Crossing DLC. There's more Mario Golf DLC, Chocobo Racing, Disco Elysium. Like, all right, it's just a bunch more ports, a bunch more DLC. The only thing that really kind of caught my attention for being super freaking cool is a Castlevania Game Boy Advance collection, which is going to be the 3 GBA games of Castlevania, but with save states and rewind functions. That's great, and actually by the time you watch this video, it's already been released on the Nintendo Switch, so that is a very, very nice surprise. Overall, this Nintendo Direct was very fun to watch, but I feel like it had a lot of filler content in there, which is fine, but I wish we did see a bit more just raw gameplay of Metroid Dread, or just, more of a presentation talking about what's coming soon, or maybe even just a first look at the Switch OLED. But either way, it was a good time. I'm glad I watched it, and honestly, even though my eyeballs are getting melted out of my head, I love you guys very, very much. Thank you so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all, and keep dreaming. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.